Hey, let's talk about games. Hello my friends, it's Hydra talking about Inquisitor Martyr again. I know, we've been talking about Vermintide 2 non-stop for the last few days. So much streaming to do, so much to play. Don't worry, I've not forgotten about this game. So much coming just around the corner that I'm just holding off on the hype train, because when this game launches, there's going to be so much to do, so much to talk about, so much to happen. Now right now, something that I need to get off of my chest: yellow shield, red shield. Yellow shield and red shield. Guys, bugs still exist, we're here to hunt them down. Remember, we're in a testing phase and stuff is still being fixed. Now, what I do want to talk about today is the actual co-op campaign of this game, or rather, the lack of a co-op campaign. This game has a single-player only, story-driven sort of narrative, and obviously we don't have the majority of the campaign in the game yet. We're still missing a lot of features of the game, and there are a lot of unknowns, but I've been holding off on this conversation so I could have a little bit more of an educated chat about it when we know more. Nice yawn coming from my character there. So, what do you get in this game? Well, when you jump in, you get a rather lengthy tutorial. First up, a little bit of criticism there. I'm afraid the tutorial in this, I agree with Arch Warhammer, is far too long. Just played through Vermintide 2. I'm not going to do too many comparisons between Vermintide 2 and this game, but Vermintide 2's tutorial was about 15 minutes, and it was basically mechanic, small little break, admire some scenery, here's a new mechanic, 30 seconds, here's a new mechanic, 30 seconds, here's another mechanic, repeat that until you're done. And that's your tutorial, and then you quickly go through the game. But it was immersive and visual enough to enjoy while doing it, even for some that already knew the controls. This game's going to throw you at something for a couple of hours. Do bear in mind that the tutorial is subject to change, but you're going to be slogging through some missions, trying to get the hang of combat and sort of clicking around. It's fairly slow and drawn out, and it doesn't necessarily trickle stuff at you so much as just blam it in your face. So, a little bit of criticism there, but the real meat of today is to talk about why that, leading into all of the various story missions that will occur through these sectors, are going to be single player only. Now, what I will say to start off with is that this has been advertised as a single player campaign for the last year. It's clearly always been intentionally single player. Never at any point was it ever advertised as anything other than a single player campaign. However, something I do want to also make clear to anyone watching and listening to this is this isn't necessarily the core of the game. This is very different to a traditional ARPG. Let's think back to Diablo, or Path of Exile for that matter. What you do in that game, 90% of your time will probably be spent playing through the campaign, with or without friends, and when you've completed it, you play through it again, and when you've completed it, you play through it again. And granted, as the years have gone on, they've added more stuff to do, but within this, what you have in each sector, if we go to a sector here, is a number of missions and a couple of story missions to do as well, and that's kind of how the story goes. I don't know how many missions there's going to be in total, but when you go to an area here, I might have a story thing I can do over in this planet. The rest of the area is a selection of missions I could do outside of the single player experience. I can basically do all of this, or a lot of stuff at least, as in a co-op setting. Now, what does this stuff give me? Because, well, it doesn't level you up as quick. Let's be honest, you get a lot less rank experience, and rank experience is basically the measurement of what determines your rank, and your rank is a measurement of how far into the game you are, and what you can equip, and what you have access to, etc. It's how much of the game you've got through. So, the question is why can players not do this in a co-op setting? Now, obviously it's a design choice made by the developers, and this is just speculation from myself. As I say, clearly it's been their intention to have it this way, and I have a few theories. Now, one thing I do want to say is, having played a lot of other games, let's take, for example, Vermintide 2, I know, I'm going there again, I have just put in shy of about 80 hours over the past 3 weeks into this game on 3 maps. Okay, 2 new ones as well. Let's say 5 maps. I didn't know what the actual story was behind the map because I'd been playing it in co-op and never paid bloody attention to it. And I just want to pitch this now as a potential downside of cooperative games is that they definitely do, for me at least. I'm talking about my personal experience. You may disagree with me, let me know down in the comments below. But if you're playing in a party setting, who here stops to read all of the chat? Who here listens to all of the dialogue when you're in a party of 4 people? Let's be honest, not many of us are going to pay any attention to all of that stuff when we're playing with friends, because we're just more concerned about who can kill the most stuff and who can run here the fastest and whose ability looks the most awesome and whose character has the best looking hat. Just your priorities in a co-op setting completely change. I would challenge you, and there will be some games that fulfill this, but I would challenge you to think of some really memorable storylines with the game that you played as a co-op experience. Now, there will be some, but I would go so far as saying that a single player experience does get the character, or the player rather, to pay attention to the story, to absorb the story, to listen to the dialogues, etc., to engage with the content in a different way. Now, I'm not saying it's the right decision to make, because this goes completely against the grain. We're here in a sector, and you know, you probably buy this game, you got a friend who's just bought the game, you just jump on together, and you realise if you want to do the main quote-unquote sort of levelling up process, the thing that will get you to the end the fastest, that ain't gonna be co-op, and that's kind of a bit weird. Now, that being said, the co-op's only going to last you about 10 to 15 hours, and by the time you're at the end, it's not a problem at all, because, you know, when you're all at the end, then you could kind of argue, well, in theory, then the game starts. As with a lot of ARPGs, you do the leveling process. In this game, it's pretty darn fast. 15 to 25 hours, I'd say, on average, provided people don't have bugs and know how to level. Yes, the system's not perfect, it needs changing and tweaking, but that is certainly a downside to it, because people are going to come in and, well, just look at the Steam forums. We have people saying, does this have a co-op campaign I can play with a friend? And they're expecting this to be like other ARPGs, where you just start at the beginning of the game, you play through till the end of the game, and then you're finished. And then if you want to do endgame stuff, you can do endgame, but this game kind of says, okay, we've got all of this stuff you can do, and you can do a campaign as well. Although the campaign just so happens to be the main levelling process. And this is where I kind of wonder why it's necessary to have this sort of separation. Why can't we level up by doing normal missions? Yes, we can. It's literally 10 times longer to do so, because you still get it rank experience, you just don't get a lot of it. It's doable, you can get there, but you can't level up together and feel like you're progressing through the game. And I have to say, right now, I feel like the negatives outweigh the positives. Not being able to level up with friends currently outweighs the positive. However, I've not played the single-player campaign yet, and I've not experienced it. So when the game's fully implemented, I can sort of revisit this conversation, have a little bit more of a detailed talk about it. I have concerns. I do have concerns. It's actually integrated into the design of the game, though. They would have to literally change the leveling system again in order to make the single-player co-op friendly. They would also have to do copious amounts of coding, because it's not designed for 2 people, and it's not just a case of flipping a switch. There are issues with it that I have that concern me. However, I'm also holding out hope that after this, let's say, single-player experience, this narrative experience, and let's give Victor here a little bit of credit that Van Helsing's story and dialogue was one of its best features, and I don't blame them for thinking, let's make sure players get to experience this and pay attention to it. If you go through Van Helsing skipping all of the dialogue, you've missed the best part of the game. And I don't really blame them for saying, look, here's the dialogue, here's all the interesting lore stuff. If you want to do that, you do it on your own. If you want to just bash through the game and do the co-op stuff, you do that with other people, but you're not going to miss out on the story stuff. I kind of get that logic. It makes sense to me. I think players aren't going to miss out on the narrative. Potentially, this could be one of the first decent stories we get within a 40k game. But it's too early to tell right now, because we don't have that story yet. But I just want to highlight it as a very, very interesting design choice. players can still play this game in a co-op setting, and that's what I want to point out. You're not missing out on the majority of content by not playing the single-player stuff, but at some point you're going to have to play it to level up to the end fairly efficiently, because you will be there forever and a day otherwise. You'll probably spend 150 hours plus trying to level through the game without doing the single-player stuff. But the way the leveling system works is you could play with your friend even if he's played 5 more hours than you have. He might be at a different point in the campaign, but you can still play together on the same missions and have the same sort of pleasure out of it, which you can't do in a traditional game. In a traditional game, when someone's gone ahead of you and you then log in together, well, you've got a problem because you're then in the boost carry situation. So there are definitely pros and cons to this. It's not a perfect system. It's already alienated some people who literally want a story narrative driven thing to play through together. But I also think for those players that they really need to look into what you get access to, because this game has lots of features. These features aren't necessarily tied into the campaign. There's lots of... Well, the truth is we don't know what a lot of the features are, let's be fair. You can do a lot of missions, a lot of combat, you can do stuff, we're going to have to revisit this, but you can do stuff outside of the single player stuff. There's all the season combat, the events there, the Cabal missions, the other missions too. The only thing you're missing out from by not playing the single player is dialogue. Other than that, they're the same missions as others. They're individually handcrafted, but the only thing you're missing is dialogue and, quicker leveling. But aside from that, it's exactly the same as doing cooperative content. Maybe there might be some cinematics and some stuff mixed in, but what do you guys think of this? Are you agreeing with the choice? Do you see the reasoning of it? Or are you a little bit confused? I want to know your thoughts down below. It is what it is. We're not calling for a change here right now. It seems a bit futile with the game to be released quote-unquote soon. Again, still no release date. But maybe in the stream coming next week, we might get a little bit of news. We know there's some announcements they're going to be making, so fingers crossed. Guys, let me know. I'm really curious what you're thinking about this. Take care and have a lovely, lovely weekend.